Hey guys, I welcome you all to the live session on how to learn DevOps step by step. This session is conducted by an expert having more than 15 plus years of industry experience.
But before we begin the session, make sure to subscribe to our channel and also hit on the bell icon so that you will never miss an update from us.
DevOps is not a tool or a team. It is a process or a methodology of using various tools to solve problems between developers and operation team. Before DevOps came into limelight, the development team always had the pressure of completing the old pending work that was considered faulty by the operation team. With DevOps, there is no wait time to deploy the code and getting it tested. Hence, the developer get instant feedback on the code and therefore can close the bugs and make the code production ready faster. The idea has grown into a massive career path with increasing job opportunities. DevOps engineers are one of the highest paid professionals in the IT industry. So, in today's session, we'll be learning on how to learn DevOps step by step and how to start a career in it. On saying that, let's see the agenda of the day.
Today in this session, guys, I'll be telling you guys, should you learn DevOps or not? And if you want to learn it, how should you go about it? What should you learn first? What all things you should be learning? So on and so forth. So we're going to start off with why do you need to become a DevOps engineer? Right? What is the need? Is there any future for a DevOps engineer? That all we're going to discuss and why DevOps engineer. And then we're going to move on and understand what is a DevOps engineer role exactly, right? Once you're done with that, we'll move on and talk about how do you become a DevOps engineer. So once you've understood, okay, so there is demand, and once you understand what is a DevOps engineer exactly, I'll tell you guys how to become a DevOps engineer, what all things you have to learn, what all things you have to make sure that you do. And towards the end, I'll also start off with how to get started. So once I've listed down all the things that you have to do, I'll probably give you a plan as to how you should go about executing it. So let's start the journey, guys. Let's start off with the first topic, which is why should you become a DevOps engineer? Now let's look at some facts, guys. Right? So according to Glassdoor, the average salary of a DevOps engineer is $100,000 in the US. Now this doesn't mean that you don't get salary above 100,000, but the average salary of a DevOps engineer is $100,000 in the US. According to payscale.com, a release manager, who is basically nothing but a DevOps manager, you can say, earns around 9,50,000 per annum on an average in India, right? According to Indeed, as of September 2019, that is our current month, there are 7,000 plus vacant DevOps engineering jobs that you can apply to. Okay, so this is the current scenario. This is the current scene in which you can get jobs for DevOps engineer. Moving forward, now let's talk about the average salary of DevOps engineer, what we have summarized from the previous facts. So in the US, the average salary is $100,000 an annum. That's what we just learned. In India, the average salary is 5,69,000. If we take into account freshers who are becoming DevOps engineers, even experienced people like a release manager or a DevOps architect or a cloud DevOps architect, all of them, the average salary which you get is 5,69,000 an annum. And obviously, I have friends who who are DevOps engineers who are very senior. They must be around. When I say very senior, not in terms of the number of years of experience, but in terms of what all things they know, and they easily earn up to around 20 lakhs per annum, and even more than that, right? So if you talk about people who are 10 to 15 years experienced in the IT industry, they can easily get even up to 45 to 50 lakhs per annum. That is the upper limit that I'm telling you in India as a DevOps engineer, right? And in the UK, it's 62,500 pounds an annum. That's the average salary of DevOps engineer. Moving forward, now let's talk about what is this DevOps engineer role. So we understood, okay, so there are a lot of jobs out there, and people are earning a lot. But what is this DevOps engineer role? What does it take to be a DevOps engineer? So let's first understand what is a DevOps engineer role. So basically, a DevOps engineer is a person who manages your application's life cycle in your company. For example, let's say you have a set of developers who develop an application. Now, the journey of the code of that application from the developer's system to the production system, to the point you are able to access that application from your phone or your laptop or from an app, is what DevOps is all about, right? So there are a lot of things which happens in between, from reaching uh, the production system to and from the point where it's just been coded on the developer system. Right, so what happens is, when the developer develops the code, it has to be first tested, right? So there are some automatic suits that we have that can basically test your code, and once you test code testing is done, right? So this testing could be more of like, is your code readable, is it understandable enough? So if this kind of testing is there, this happens on the lower end when you push the code by the developer. After that, there are some functional tests which have to be done, but before that, what happens is, on before the production environment, there's a staging environment and there's a testing environment where you basically deploy the application first to see how the application is basically functioning, and the tests which have to be done on this, they are basically automated, right? So basically the application is deployed over there with all the dependencies involved automatically, right? And then the application is tested automatically, then it is staged, and again further it is tested for any edge cases, and finally if everything goes well, it is deployed onto the production. Now, this life cycle is planned by a DevOps engineer, right? And this life cycle is basically automated by a DevOps engineer. So, a DevOps engineer's job is to plan out, like, if I have 100 people in my tech company, right? How to get work done by 100 people on the same product, right? How to distribute them work, how to plan out their activities. So all these things are basically planned by a DevOps engineer, and a DevOps engineer basically plays a key role in architecting how an application basically would be deployed when it's on a certain platform, right? Moving forward, guys, now let's talk about the skills or the tasks basically which a DevOps engineer does, right? So a DevOps engineer is basically expected to be an excellent system administrator. He's expected to know how to know about how to deploy applications. He should know about virtualization. He should have hands-on experience in network and storage. He should have an experience in coding, right? What that basically means is, you should not be a hardcore developer and you should not be able to create mean stack or merge stack applications. What that basically means is, if you read some lines of code, you should be able to understand what is happening in the code, what is the logic behind that code, right? So that much proficiency is expected from a DevOps engineer. Apart from that, soft skills are also a must, because the DevOps engineer role is also sometimes a customer facing role, wherein they are basically expected to ask the requirements of the customer, and according to that, they're expected to lay down a plan as to how things will be done, right? So they should be acquainted with most of the automation tools which will basically create the whole DevOps lifecycle. Like I told you guys, that DevOps lifecycle requires automation is at the heart of the DevOps life cycles, right? So you have to be acquainted with a lot of automation tools if you are working with the DevOps life cycle. After that, you also need to have software testing knowledge. Now, the automatic tests that I was talking about, they are basically created by software testers, right? And the implementation is basically done by the DevOps engineer, but you should also understand how a software testing suite is basically created, right? You should basically know how to create a test from scratch, so that if you are deploying a test and if a problem occurs, you should know exactly where the problem is occurring, right? And finally, he should also be acquainted with all the security best practices which goes into creating an architecture, because obviously you are dealing with a product. You are, and if it's a product based company, and if you're dealing with a product, you are basically handling the heart and soul of the company, which earns the company bread and butter, right? So the most important aspect of this is security. So there should be no DOS attacks on your application. Your application should not be like the code that you're deploying, it gets leaked out somewhere. That should not be the case. So you should be ready for all the edge cases, and you should devise a foolproof security architecture for your application too. And these are the kind of expectations that are basically that people have from a DevOps engineer. Now, moving forward, guys, I talked about a lot of big things. I talked about you knowing security architectures. I talked about you knowing a lot of architectures. I talked about you knowing automation tools. I talked about you knowing in and out of being a system administrator. Now, how do you get all these skills? Like, if you're a person who is from an IT background or from a non-IT background, and you feel, DevOps is a thing that I might be interested in switching on to, how do you become a DevOps engineer? Okay, so let's try to answer this question by first listing down all the skills that we have to learn first. Okay, so we have basically taken up some jobs from different job portals, and these are the skills that are expected from a DevOps engineer. So this is a job from the Unilever company, and these are the requirements that they expect from a DevOps engineer. So the DevOps engineer should be good in Python. He should be good with Ansible, Chef, or Puppet. That is, either of these tools he should know. He should know Jenkins, he should know Java, he should know Docker, he should know Kubernetes, and he should also know about operating system, virtual machines, containers, proxy engine, etc. Right? Don't get scared with these terms, guys. I'll give you a solution. I'm here to give you a solution, but I'm just letting you know what all skills are required. Okay. Then what else are required by a DevOps engineer? Again, this is a job by the company SAP, and they're hiring DevOps engineers, and these are the things that they expect.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides DevOps online training validated and certified by NASSCOM Future Skills and IBM. The course link is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Again, they need Kubernetes, containers, Nagios. Nagios is basically a monitoring tool. They need cloud providers like knowledge of GCP, Azure. They also need Chef or Ansible. Okay, so these are some skills. Let's look at one more job profile. Let's talk about a company called Oracle. So they expect you to know cloud. You expect me to know CI/CD, Git, Docker or Kubernetes, Python, configuration management. So as you can see, most of them have the similar kind of skills which they are expecting in all the DevOps engineers job, right? So let's list down what all are the skills expected. So you should know the configuration management automation tools that we have listed over here. Then you should know the CI/CD tools, basically the pipeline tools, Jenkins that we heard about. Then you should know testing tool. For this, the most prevalent framework which is used is Selenium. Then you should know cloud services like AWS, Azure, GCP, and then you should also know a programming language like Python. Okay, so these are the skills which are required by a DevOps engineer, and these, if you know, you're eligible to become a DevOps engineer. At the same time, you should also have strong Linux skills. Okay, that is also an expectation from a DevOps engineer. And if you have these skills, you can become a DevOps engineer. Now, the next question is how to get started. How do you get started when you probably know either half of it or 3/4 of it or 1/4 of it or zero of it? And if you want to become this guy who's a DevOps engineer, how do you go ahead and become one? Okay. Now there are two ways, guys. So either whatever skills I've told you, you can start off with these skills, right? So how do you start off? You start off by a programming language. Let's take the example of Python. You learn all the loops, you learn all the if statements. So this will hardly take around, if you have a non-programming background, it should take around 2 to 3 days to get a hang of how basically Python works with loops, if conditions, and some input output operations. If you get acquainted with this, I think you are good to go. So it'll take 2-3 days to get a hang of it, and then another week where you can practice some projects. You can go to websites like CodeMonk. You can go to websites like HackerEarth, where they have a lot of practice problems. You can go over there, try the beginner problems, and then I think that would be great enough. 10 days is good enough to invest on a programming language, and that's how you get started, right? So once you are done with the programming language, the next skill that you would have to know is about cloud, right? So there are 3 cloud services which will mostly be asked from you. It'll be AWS, it'll be Azure, and it'll be GCP. Okay, so AWS is a cloud provider which is the most popular cloud provider among all the companies that you'll be applying to. So it's a better choice to first learn AWS, and then start off with Azure first and then GCP, because this is how the popularity goes. And when you start off with AWS, most of the concepts that you'll be learning in AWS will be the same with Azure and GCP, right? So when you start off with AWS, there are a lot of content online. You can go through a lot of documentation. You'd get, I mean, the first thing that you'll have to do is you'll have to start by creating your account. You'll get a free tier for 1 year that you can practice on, right? So if you search on Google, if you research a bit, you'll get a lot of content that you'll have to go through. But yes, first you'll have to research a lot, and then you'll have to jot down in which sequence you would want to learn AWS. But if you try to research, there are websites that will basically tell you what to learn first and what not to. Okay, then you have to go ahead and learn about DevOps. Now, DevOps would include all these things: CI/CD, testing tools, automation tools, right? So, in this, there are essentially, if we were to talk about the DevOps lifecycle, this is how the DevOps lifecycle looks like, right? So, first you have create. So, create basically means coding, right? So, coding. So, as a DevOps engineer, from the code perspective, you have to know how to do versioning in code. So you'll have to learn Git. You'll have to learn about how to verify it, which is basically testing. You'll have to learn about Selenium. Then how to package it, basically building the file. For that, you'll have to learn Maven. How to release it. For that, you'll have to know about Jenkins, because that integrates basically all the tools. And all the tools that I'm telling you guys, just write it down and you can search on Google. You'll get a lot of content on them. But yeah, you'll have to research and you have to study on your own once at least, and then try on and understand first the concepts, and then go ahead and then do the hands-on as well. Okay, then after release, you'll also have to learn some configuration management tools, which is basically Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, right? Because these are the most popular tools. Then for monitoring, you will have to learn Nagios, because that was one tool which is asked, and there are some other monitoring tools as well. But from my experience, what I've seen is Nagios is the most easy to learn tool, and you can start with that. And once you get a hang of all the concepts, you can actually go ahead and try on some other monitoring tools too, right? In this, we missed out on Docker, which is a very important tool, but Docker is something that you can actually touch in the end as well, because it's not related to all the tools that we just discussed, right? So learn about Docker, then start on with Kubernetes, which is basically a tool to manage Docker containers well, right? So if you go in this sequence, I think it would be a sweet ride for you. It'll take around 6 to 8 months with your hard work and your dedication towards learning those tools and following them. And if you follow it thoroughly, I think you would be equivalent to a 6 months experienced DevOps engineer. Okay, now once you're done with the tools, obviously you'll have to go ahead and learn a lot of best practices. So if you are not a developer and if you're not a system admin, you will have to learn how architectures are basically deployed on production systems, right? And for that, you'll have to go through a lot of white papers. So you can actually refer AWS white papers, you can refer Azure white papers, and if you go through them, you will understand how the architectures basically are in the production grade, and then you can start implementing the tools that you have learned on these production systems, right, with the help of those white papers. So this is one way, that is, if you want to learn by yourself, this is one way of self-teaching, where you can, if you have the perseverance and you have the dedication for 8 months, you would be able to crack it. You would be able to get a hang of it, and you'd be able to crack the DevOps engineer job. Now there is a second way also, and that is what Intellipaat is here for. So we understood the demand of our customers. We understood, okay, so for preparing this role, obviously you need a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills, and that's when we came up with this Cloud and DevOps Architect Masters course. Now, what all do we teach you in this? We teach you AWS, we teach you Azure, we teach you Google Cloud, we teach you DevOps, and when I say DevOps, all the tools in DevOps, which are basically popular, and then we also teach you Python. So whatever I told you in the sequence, we will be following the same sequence over here. And apart from that, we also give you some other courses as well, which could be a good add-on to your profile. But the main focus would be on the classroom training. Now, what you basically get in the classroom training is you get live instructor-led course, which will basically be taught by an instructor like me on the fly. And if you have any questions, you can actually ask the instructor while he's teaching, right? And the instructor will basically teach you from his experience on production as to how he has deployed architectures, what are the best practices that they follow. Now, how will this help? This will basically expedite your learning process. So let's say if you were taking 6 to 8 months to prepare, by this mode you can be done in at least like 3 months. In 3 months of time you would be able to cover all these skills, and after that it's just you and the practice sessions that you're going to undertake as to how you can cover the session. Now, as a part of this training, because there are a lot of tools to learn, and we understand that you are also professionals and you're already working, you'd have to take time out to basically learn this course. So what we have also done is we have made all this content available to you for a lifetime, which basically means even the live instructor-led classes, at even after 5 years, if you want a live instructor to teach you these topics, he will be available for you to teach these topics. Okay, so that's a good thing that you get with the online classroom training. I'm sure in the comment section you would get the link for this course. Now, let me also show you the content page as to how it looks like, and then we can go forward from there. And this course price it fluctuates, guys. Like today there's a deal which is going on, and because of that this 82,000 course is available for 55,000, right? But tomorrow it could be that this price increases. So if you want, you can actually go ahead and talk to our course advisors about what is the possibility of you enrolling into this course. If you have any more questions with regards to how this training is going to be, give us a call. The numbers are mentioned over here, India and US. You can give us a call, you can talk to us. It could be a friendly call. You can just call us and check with us as to how the training is going to be, and we can explain it that. And if it works out, I think it'll be the best decision that you would take in the coming years, because it's an investment that you make on yourself. All right, so with this, guys, this was a short session. So this was about how to become a DevOps engineer. So what we're going to do is on Thursday, today is Tuesday, so on Thursday we are also going to have a hands-on session on DevOps, where basically we're going to show you how to create a CI/CD pipeline using the DevOps tools that we basically were talking about today. Right, so we're going to do that on Thursday. So if you have not subscribed this, please subscribe to us, so that you get the notification for Thursday's live class. Also, don't forget to click on that notification button so that you get the notification then and there, and you can attend that live class.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides DevOps online training validated and certified by NASSCOM Future Skills and IBM. The course link is given in the description below.